Jim Clifton is quite a guy. He is blessed with an inquiring mind, and he is especially inquiring about conventional wisdom. For example, take jobs creation. Jim has concluded that many leaders are going about it in the wrong way, including undercutting entrepreneurs instead of cultivating and helping them. He wrote an important book, which is a very good read. It's called The Coming Jobs War. And he's recently come out with another book, The Entrepreneurial Strengths Finder, which is at your table. As chairman and CEO of Gallup, Jim likes information and he likes facts. And he challenges the notion that innovation will lead to jobs. He champions entrepreneurship over innovation. And he weighs in on the ongoing debate, are we born entrepreneurs or can we learn to be one? And Jim said, and I'm quoting him here, free lunches and snacks have little direct impact on human performance. And they have the real potential of being destructive to achievement. Today's lunch is not free, Jim. We're making everybody work hard for their lunch, and we are really looking forward to your remarks. Please welcome Jim Clifton.
I think it's really important that you guys are getting together today. I probably have a little different view than everybody else, but here's the most important thing for you to start with. Entrepreneurship in rural communities is dying, just absolutely dying. But if you don't start there, it's hard to get a solution and then figure out some activities and strategies. Here's something else. Entrepreneurship is absolutely dying in this country. Absolutely dying. But I want to give you a couple of facts. By the way, I have kind of a different job, but I get off on, I don't know if you, Bill, you know this, but I hate golf. I don't sail or I don't have cars or anything like that. So I get off and start looking into things. But I started getting interested in how come startups are dying. But if you listen to talking heads, they make it sound like America is this great never-ending machine for business, and all that's going away. And almost nobody knows it. And I've had friends say to me, Jim, you either need to write this down, get into therapy or something. But so I'm here for therapy. I just want to give you a couple of facts. Here's one. The economy's turned the corner and it's now growing. Where does it say that? I need to know if that's true or not, because if it's growing, then the activities that we take as leaders is one set of activities. If it's dying, I need to know that, because that means everything's going wrong and it takes a whole different set of activities. What do you think the economy, remember that's the sales of the United States, us selling stuff to each other, exports and production. They keep saying 3%. Remember, 3% doesn't work very well. You need 2.5% just to stay up, just to keep up with population growth. 2.5% is failing for the American economy. You know where we're at right now? 1.25. But if you listen to the administration, I'm not picking on the administration, or to the right, Squawk Box and Wall Street, both of them will tell you that we've turned the corner and we're growing. Why do they do that? I want to defend them both. If you and I had those jobs, we'd be doing the same thing. Administration's trying to hold the Senate. Wall Street's trying to hold an absolutely crazy bull market together. So when you say, hey, how's it going? They're not going to say everything's crumbling, because you lose the Senate and you lose your bull market. And it's hard to know what to believe anymore. But if you go to the Department of Labor sites and just check unemployment, I love this one. By the way, GDP right now, are there some mathematicians? It's increasing at a decreasing rate. That's the same as losing. So we're at about, 3 years ago, we're at about 2.2, then we went to 1.9, right now we're running at 1.25. Who the hell thinks that's recovery? We've turned the corner. No, we're not, we're still going down. I like this one. Well, now that unemployment's at 5.9. You guys all like that 5.9 number? Why is it 5.9? Because the people in the workforce, the denominator keeps shrinking. You want to get it down to 3 or 2, just have more people drop out. So you say, hey, we added 200,000 jobs. Boy, that's good for you. Did you know 500,000 just dropped out of the workplace? Well, in Squawk Box and the administration, we forget that part. So you say, well, how could that be? What's going on? The single most reliable place to find jobs and organic growth is startup companies. I'll pick this up. This is real depressing, this part right here. And so the Census Bureau does a beautiful job of this. And so they keep track of every new startup, every size, and all of that. And remember, it's not a survey or a poll. It's a census. They get them all. So it's kind of zero range of error. Okay, you need to know this. There are 6 million businesses in America. 4 million of them have an average number of employees of 1.4. Those aren't really entrepreneurs. God love them all. I got a whole bunch of relatives like that out. I'm originally from Nebraska. I live here now, but I got a whole bunch of relatives like that out in the western part of the state. They're not really entrepreneurs. They're people that want to have a particular lifestyle, and they love freedom and independence, and they can't work in companies and all that. We shouldn't call them entrepreneurs. Of the 6 million, let's take 4 million of them out. Now you got 2 million. Of the 2 million, the number of employees between 5 and 10 is 1 million. Between 10 and 20 is 600,000. Between 20 and 100 is 500,000. Oops, you already got the 2 million. Where are the big companies? There aren't any. Between 100 and 500, there's only 80,000 companies. Between 500 and 10,000 employees, that's the company I run, that's where we are, there's only 18,000. These numbers get tiny. Companies with 10,000 people or more, there's only 950. So when you say, well, what about Walmart? Now, yeah, I know Walmart has 2 million, and I know that Wells Fargo has 300,000, and Target has 600,000, but it drops off real fast. But that little ecosystem of 2 million, mostly small and medium-sized businesses, which is what creates our $16 trillion of GDP now stalled. So what feeds it? Here's what you need to know. Of those, 400,000 of them, huge number, goes broke or ceases to exist each year. If it's a herd of cattle, 400,000 die. Here's what the trend has been looking like. 500,000 businesses start up in the United States of America each year, 400,000 die. So it's a net of 100,000. 100,000 feeds that neat little ecosystem, that rainforest that we have that creates the most colossal free enterprise system in the world. Here's the problem. Our researchers found this, now the Chicago Fed, now Brookings, and I just read it in The Economist. 500,000 here, 4 years ago, those two lines just crossed. They X'd. So now we have 400,000 starting, and we have 500,000 dying. So it's not that we lost 100,000, we're actually down 200,000. So if you want to find one metric where you're going to get real positive about America or short it, watch that metric. I get a little concerned in conferences like this when we start talking about legislation. We start talking about fiscal tools. So we say, well, let's see if we can't juice jobs by making it easier to get money. Let's create some new tax credits. Here's the point. You got to ask yourselves this. Is business startup and entrepreneurship a fiscal tool or is it a spirit? The answer is it's a spirit. They mess with these fiscal tools all the time. None of them are working. But the spirit, we've got a wet blanket on the spirit. Second thing is that when we looked at where are the jobs and where are the startups, I'm pretty sure we've misdiagnosed. I wrote some stuff on this so I don't go crazy. It's in that little book there. Thank you for getting those, Bill. But we've determined that the answer is innovation. And so what we need to do is spend billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of taxpayers' money on innovation, and we're doing that. Literally hundreds and hundreds of billions of innovation. You know how many jobs are coming out of it? Seriously, 0. We're getting nothing back for that. I can say that about innovation. I spent my whole life selling innovation. It doesn't create jobs. What does create jobs is a business model, an entrepreneur, and somebody that creates an almighty customer. But as you're working today and tomorrow, just keep this in mind. Ask yourself this. Does an invention or innovation, when does it have value? It has no value at all until a customer is standing next to it. The inventor is one kind of person, an entrepreneur's another kind of person. You need those two to tango. But what we have done is we've chosen we've given the wrong responsibility to innovation. I want to tell you about one guy. By the way, I'm 63 years old, Bill. I always say this, but I tell my kids this, and young people at our company, they had to read books about the history of business in America. I was actually there when it was when it was happening. You ever heard of Wayne Huizenga? Yeah. So Wayne, there in some town in Ohio, borrows $1,000 because he's got an idea for a business. You know what the business was? A garbage truck. Or what do you call it? That's not the right word. What's the political correct? A sanitation truck. A sanitation engineer truck. But he bought a truck. Borrowed $1,000 and bought that truck. By the way, let's say that this was an investment luncheon. And do you want to put money in that? He's starting a garbage collection firm or organization. And he bought another truck and another truck. He turned it into one of the best managed, best investments in the whole world called waste management. Gets green awards, and it's just a great place to work. And the guy built, a fantastic American empire. But remember what the idea was? Garbage. Is that a good idea? I don't know. But it was a Fortune 500 company. His next idea was, and I did the market research on this, but he wanted to rent films in strip malls. I did tell people went, yeah, that might be a good idea. It wasn't that good of an idea. It was Blockbuster, and he sold it for built it up and sold it for $8.6 billion. Now I know that it got disrupted by all this other stuff, but he built a great company. Only guy to ever build 2 Fortune 500 companies in one lifetime. No college degree, just a cat from a medium-sized town in, I'm pretty sure, Ohio. I see a couple people. Is that right? I see a couple people. They know him. So anyway, that was it. You know what his third idea was? Selling used cars. Boy, there's a big idea. Oh, I wish I would have come up with that one. But anyway, that was his third Fortune 500 company. Garbage, renting films in a strip mall, selling used cars, 3 Fortune 500 companies. I just want to ask you, I'm just trying a little case here with you. Was it the idea or was it the person? I know the answer. I know Wayne. He's one of the most unusual creatures that God made. I've always wondered what he could have done if somebody would have actually given him a good idea. But see, so are we looking for innovation or are we trying to find unusual people? Too many universities say anybody can become an entrepreneur. I wish they would quit saying that. Anybody can be in an entrepreneurial environment, make millions of dollars and all that, but whoever that alpha entrepreneur is a very unusual, special person. They need a good manager with them. They need experts with them so they can boom it and build it. But until a real alpha entrepreneur walks onto that floor, you'll never have a company. We did a bunch of math. And by the way, God was very egalitarian when he handed this out. But it looks like unusual people like Wayne, like Steve Jobs, people that can build something of unlimited size, is about 5 in 1,000. So if you have a town with 10,000 people, you might have 50 of them in that little bitty town. Here's the problem with the way leadership in society is right now. We don't know which one they are. Now, if you can play a piano or you can sing, play a violin, or you have high IQ, or you're a running back and throw a football or shoot a three-point, we'll find you while you're in junior high. We'll put you in accelerated development, and we are masters at intellectual development. We're failing a little bit in big cities downtown, all that, but nobody's a peer of this country. Nobody's a peer of this country of developing people with talents for the arts. We entertain the whole world with movies and music and literature and everything else. But the one we need most right now that's a lot bigger problem in this country than ISIS or Ebola is that we got to get jobs started again. I'll wrap this up. I got kind of wound up. But until we have a process in this country, It doesn't matter if it's big towns or small towns. Until we have a process for early identification and accelerated development for unusually talented entrepreneurs, the country won't come back. Now, I want to make this the most positive thing I can say. Of all the things Americans have done, you read about World War II. I thought Roosevelt had a great remark when he said, how do you win a war? He said, you don't take an army to war, you take a whole country to war. But that's what we've done. We've taken a whole country to find football players and singers and everything else. Why don't we do it with this? Why don't we realize that that guy right there can build something big? Maybe I can't, but maybe I'm an expert. Maybe I'm a manager, and I want to be in an entrepreneurial environment, but I know that I need him on the team. But I think if we're winning World War II, if on a high degree of difficulty, if that was a 10, I think this one's is about a 3. As far as our future with China or whoever else, the cards you want to be holding are America's cards. China has so many problems. You know, Brazil, the BRIC countries and all that, they're already falling apart. I don't think there's any question but we'll rise up past China. But I just think for the whole world, we've got to set the example, and we've got to be the ones that figure out how human development goes up another notch, and this is definitely the right subject. Thank you. I'll take a couple questions. Yes, sir.
United States is at entertainment, et cetera. I don't think I've seen a movie in the last 25 years that shows business, and big business, small business, any business that's making money in a positive light. And it seems to me that that's the attitude that we're trying to pervade this society with, whether it be production agriculture, whether it be somebody out making a new product. Everything we do tries to say how bad those people are. How do we turn that?
Well, don't get me started. Well, you know, a lot of it just comes down to heroes. But you know, there is. If you don't think there's a wet blanket on the image of free enterprise and capitalism, you're from another planet. I'm sure it's one of the reasons too why businesses. A lot of young people even are denying so much. I have young people say to me, I'm going to start a nonprofit because I don't want to run something that has to make a profit off of doing what I do. You guys, that is a very serious American problem. Two things. One thing is, if you want to do something for a person in this country, there's nothing more caring that you can do than give them a job with a boss that cares about their development. That's first. And you're most likely to do that by starting a company. You and I are both on a lot of nonprofits. I chair the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, and I watch our CEO. So mine's a pretend job, but so we have a real CEO that runs that nonprofit. His job's a lot harder than mine. Those things are really hard to run. But something's wrong with the image of business when really bright young people, I'm sure they're here at Georgetown too, that are saying, I don't want to be in business because I don't want to be like that. I do want to run and try to build my own empire, but I want it to be nonprofit. And I think that we have to have leaders that stand up and say, you know, dream it, build it, and I think that'll make a difference. Just one more point. I've always wondered, but think about this. Deng Xiaoping is making his change in China. Remember that famous speech he gave? If you talk about a speech that changed the world and surprised the world, it's when he got up and said to China, to be rich is glorious. That was Deng Xiaoping's speech. I don't think the world has changed so much because all of China ripped off those kind of nasty Mao green jackets, and they all went to work. And you wonder if Alibaba, the biggest offering in the history of New York Stock Exchange, would be there if Deng Xiaoping hadn't done that. By the way, the thing that bothers me as an American in competition for the future with China about Alibaba is not how big it is. And remember, you run it there, so you pay, your taxes are about a third. But then you list it on the New York Stock Exchange. That could be a problem. I don't think it's as big a problem as about 300 million young Chinese got up. I think that's about how many young. You know what their dream is? To be to create the next Alibaba, where you got American kids saying, I don't want to be a part of business, I'm going to start a nonprofit because all of that institution of capitalism is wrong. But I think we need leadership to stand up and say, dream it, build it, and it's okay to be rich. And could you imagine right now in this environment, a candidate getting up and saying, get as rich as you can, or what? You just can't do it. You could when I was young, but you can't anymore. But I think it's a very serious problem, but fixable.
Hi, I'm Chris Mumford. I'm really interested in terms of talent recognition and what sort of education you would provide to that. What ideas? You've presented the problem. I'm curious to see what you think the solution would look like.
Well, my sisters and I are doing a thing in Nebraska where we're starting a center. The main campus in Nebraska is in Lincoln. And we're starting an entrepreneur center there. We're going to test almost every single person. We've figured out that there's somewhere between about 10,000 kids in Nebraska that have that unusual talent. We're going to test them. We're going to figure. And then we want to make sure that they want to be in business and all that. Some will want to be surgeons or pilots or whatever. And then we're going to scholarship them. We're building a very special curriculum, and we're putting them in mentorships. In internships, so they might be in Omaha at anywhere from Ameritrade to Conagra to Berkshire to Mutual of Omaha, whatever it is. But that's an experiment that we're doing. But I don't know how this is going to come out, but my team's doing everything they can. I wouldn't be surprised that 80% of it's just early identification. So many of these really valuable startups. By the way, if you take Michael Dell, if you take Larry Ellison at Intel, you take the Google boys, Microsoft and Steve Jobs and all that, you have almost $2 trillion of market cap. None of those kids have a college degree. They started getting their ideas, but whatever that is that's in your body that's boiling out was coming out pretty fast. But you wonder how many we miss. What's the camera on your wrist? What's that one called? What is it? Yeah, GoPro. GoPro just got valued at $3 billion. I saw Charlie Rose interviewing that kid, and he almost got missed as an American because he had such he borrowed some money from his in-laws, or he's not married, so it's not, maybe from his parents or uncle or something. And that whole thing crashed. And then he took off on this is what he said to Charlie Rose, but he went to Australia just surfing to see if he could get another idea or what he should do with his life and all that. And then he came up with by the way, the stuff they come up with doesn't have anything to do, it doesn't have to be technology. They just need something to take off on, kind of like Wayne Huizinga. But if he would have been identified early and put in relationship, now he wasn't missed, but it makes you wonder how many we do miss. But I think, if you have high IQ, our tests find you in downtown Philadelphia or south central Los Angeles, western Nebraska or wherever. And so our teams are trying to make a whole bunch of tests. We found there's 3 power themes. One is unusual determination. Another one is an unusual relationship to risk, not that necessarily that they love it, but they have a kind of confidence where they think it doesn't apply to them. They try to cut risk and all that. Another one is that they're unusually good with business models. Those things are really easy to predict too. So I don't know. There's some.
Accidental entrepreneur, because I think there are the big alphas. Clearly, that's very well documented. But the accidental entrepreneurs, people that didn't really want to think they wanted to be entrepreneurs, may not score well. I find there are a lot of entrepreneurs that run 5 to 30-person companies that, aren't big alpha entrepreneurs. So I wonder if there's any research that deals with that segment.
Well, I think when you look at the beginnings of a company, I think sometimes it does get kind of confusing. It's not as simple as just alpha. But you do find 3 elements. By the way, sometimes the alphas can manage pretty well, and sometimes they're awful. Some of the best entrepreneurs that I've known are really not very likable people. they don't have any friends at all. They're kind of loners. And if you do talk to them, you go, oh my God, you try to stay away from them and all that. But you want to know who they are. And it's good to know what their thought patterns, life themes are, so you can, but they definitely need a manager with them very, very early. Somebody that can help hold the people together and all that. And the other thing that you always need in there is an expert. And sometimes the expert gets called the entrepreneur because they'll have something that's sort of working, but until an entrepreneur connects with that. So we're so bad at this science. I mean, I get in places with really super educated academics, and the question is, are entrepreneurs, classic entrepreneurs, born or made? The right answer is born. Most universities argue they're made, and I think it's really not helpful. The only place I'll give in is I'll say that they're born and then made, because I think if you're born and then you come to Georgetown, I think they'll blow you through the roof. I mean, really develop you fast. But I think trying to develop kids that don't have that talent is borderline cruel. And then they never can get the money, and they say, oh, nobody will loan it to me, and it's a mess, which is, of course, part of the test of entrepreneurship. If we stop right now, we're right back on time. Thank you very much.